You're now listening to the Insight BBL Show with your hosts, Brain and Horse.
G'day, guys. It's the final team preview. We've covered the first 7. We're on to the last one, which is the Sydney Sixers, and I'm the Supercoach Brain, joined by the Supercoach Horse. How are you, mate? We're starting to get into the thick of things now.
Yeah, going well, brother. And let's be honest, I got sick of looking at your 7-story house that you've got going on in the background there with the nice fireplace. So I introduced you to my theatre room. It just lacks friends. So will you be my friend and join me? Have a look at it. Plenty of room for everybody.
That's nice. You got some nice little whiskey. You got a whiskey bar out the back there. You got looks like the NFL's on the TV. You're doing
mate, I'm piss fit. That's about my fitness at the moment.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave that room if I had that one either. So I don't blame you. But mate, they're not. The people here aren't here to listen to us talk about how much we love to get on the piss. They're here to listen to us talk about the Sydney Sixers. But before we do that, guys, hit the like button and the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future episodes coming your way. And if you're an audio person, hit that follow button, leave us a 5-star review. And if you like to win shit, I mean, who doesn't like to win shit? You can join our unlimited league. It is 650202. It's 650202. For those of you on YouTube, you can see that on the screen. That is the league code. Enter that league. It doesn't cost you a thing, and you can potentially win a weekly prize. Thank you to the Standard Squeeze, one of our major sponsors. You get a Standard Squeeze little pack there, or a 4-in-1 for the top score every single week. And we're going to give away a Supercoach Champions ring as well to the winner of the overall league. Now, Horse, we've been cooking up in the Patreon. We've got a lot going on in the Patreon there, a lot of exclusive content.
Heaps.
Mate, tell us a little bit about Patreon and what's happening in there.
So what we're doing is we're giving exclusive news, up-to-date team news, our teams, and a whole lot more in there. So if you want access to everything that Braino and I do each and every day, every move that we do, or if you've got any questions at home that you want answered pronto, hit us up in there. You've got unlimited access to what we do and our help for you.
Absolutely. So Q&As are going to be coming thick and fast when we get a little bit closer. I know people are going to be finalising their team. So if you want your team finalised, you want our opinion, you want to see what our moves are going to be, or get the latest news across the BBL, you can join the Patreon. The link is in the description below to join there. Now, mate, let's get into the Sydney Sixers. Not much movement when we're talking about the off-season front or in the draft. We've got Akil Hussain, though, is the big one for me. A huge steal from the Renegades last year. He only played the last couple of games of the year, but over to the Sixers now, a spinner that can bat and will be bowling on the SCG. Horse is licking the lips, isn't it?
Yeah, spinner's capital of Australia, isn't it, the SCG? And bringing in a player to the calibre that is Akil Hussain, he's going to be a definite trading target come the Sixers double. So we see also there Jaffa Chauhan, who bowls some spin as well, and Ben Menenti, who bowls spin as well, but I feel might be a depth player more than anything this year. Out, a couple of big outs. Steve O'Keefe, he's underrated. Yeah, he's as old as the hills, but he just got the job done week in, week out, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Sock was that season campaigner. He's played more games on the SCG than I've had hot dinners, I think. And, he's going to be missed, but very like-for-like replacement in Akil Hussain, who obviously has those left-arm orthodox skills up his belt as well. And Tom Curran obviously moving on over to the Stars. We've talked enough about him, so we won't continue on Tom Curran. But a big out and probably opening up an opportunity for the man on the thumbnail there on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. So we'll talk about him a little bit later as well, Horse. But we've got a predicted 11 for round one, guys. Obviously, Hussain has West Indian international duties to kick things off. So keeping that in mind, he'll be back in round two. This is our round one predicted 11. Horse, do you want to kick things off?
Of course. So the mainstays of the Sixers at the top there, Vince and Philippi opened the batting. They've both been pretty good in the past. They had a bit of a down year, both of them last year, although I do expect them to bounce back, not just as an opening duo, but as a team as a whole. Jack Edwards, potentially my favourite player, and Braino's heard me bang on enough about Jack Edwards in at 3. Moises Enriquez at 4. Jordan Silk, perhaps the best fielder in BBL, at 5. Hayden Kerr at 6. The tremendously underpriced Hayden Kerr, mind you. Joel Davies at 7. That is until Hussain comes back in round 2. Then you've got Abbott, Dwarshus, Bird. Bird just took a shit ton of wickets in the Sheffield Shield against South Australia. Took a 7 in the first innings. And Jaffa Chauhan at 10 there.
Not a bad looking team, is it? Really? Like, we know the Sixers are going to compete again, as they do every single year. They're going to be a hard team to beat. I think, a lot of the success that the Sydney Sixers have is centered around the fact that they use their spin bowlers so well. I think Stephen O'Keefe missing. Obviously, they've got Todd Murphy, but there's every chance I think Todd Murphy's probably with the test squad during this time and won't be released. So, that presents an opportunity for Chauhan, who, if we think back maybe 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago now, we remember Shane Warne going over to England and raving about this young 13-year-old leg spinner and how good he was going to be. He's going to be the next big thing. Well, that is Jaffa Chauhan. So I'm really excited to see how he goes over here. Plenty of amazing things. And as a leggy myself, I'm excited to see him bowl. Mate, we probably should get into the guns, but before we do, the show is brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead. For those of you that have an interest rate above 6.2%, get in touch with Ryan. He will help you not only get that interest rate down, but free up some coin, or potentially even get you in a spot where you can buy your first home. So Ryan will look after all of the hard work and do the heavy lifting for you. His details and his application form are in the link below. Mate, talk to us about the guns to kick things off. Who are we looking at that we should be considering?
There's a long list here. Let's be honest. The Sixers have been a good team for a while now, but my first would be Akil Hussain, but he's not going to be ready till round 2, but he's definitely someone we're going to want to target come their double. Jack Edwards, Sean Abbott, and Philippi, for me, they're probably the 3. Jack Edwards, he's going to bowl his 3 or 4 overs. He's been batting at 3 in the Shield. He's been batting at, 4, and then batted at 6 in the one-dayers. Made runs. He top scored the other day in the one-dayers with a 40-odd. Massive, massive role here for the Sixers, and I see him potentially being one of the players that we will need in our teams, not just for the Sixers double, but by season's end.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think based on our predicted round 111, I think obviously Daniel Hughes dropping out, like we've mentioned, has been a really big loss for them. But a big gain for hopefully Jack Edwards, because I think it's basically between Edwards and Curtis Patterson as to who fills that 3 role. It's got to be Edwards. I just think that they can make some better moves down the bottom. Yeah, Hussain is more than capable of batting 7. I don't know whether they need that batting depth with the Sixers. I think they're quite capable of not having to play that pure bat. And Jack Edwards, I think the only maybe downside is that Jack Edwards is such a good finisher as well. So they really like using him at 6 to finish off the innings. So that's probably the only reason he would stay down there, and they'd shuffle things around. But let's hope for Supercoach's sake they don't. That's
right. Brano Philippi, the keeper, potentially one of the better keepers in BBL.
Yeah, we could keep Supercoach options, definitely. He's always going to be in the thick of things. You look at their bowling lineup with Dwarshus, Abbott, Bird, Jackson Bird, that kind of line and length guy that finds the edge of the bat more often than not. He's going to be in the game. I think Philippi was in the top 10 highest fielding points from memory, correct me if I'm wrong, last year. So, he's going to get opportunities with either stumpings and obviously from Stephen O'Keefe last year, he got a few of those as well. I'd say that I don't see much changing. I think that Philippi will be a good option moving forward, a guy that you probably want to have in round 3 when they have their double. It's just, do you want to play wicket-keeper roulette in the first few rounds? That's going to be the challenge, because you're probably targeting doubles. It means you're probably going to have 3 different wicket-keepers in 3 weeks. So that's the question, do you go with a Seifert from the Renegades? Then there's news about Joe Clark coming over to the Stars now. Do you go with him? And then Inglis, if he gets released, do you have Inglis too? Like, there's so many options there in that first 2 rounds that maybe you want to target trades elsewhere, but I can't argue against Josh Philippi. Nope. He's the only time I've owned him in BBL history is when he's burnt me and he's been poor. So maybe I do have a little bit of a tendency to probably lean away from him more than anything, but he is a good option, I think, to start.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned Sean Abbott, mate. I think that's a no-brainer, but what are your thoughts on him?
Opening bowler. He opens the bowling in the Australian one-day side. He bowls death. He's one of the best death bowlers that we have in Australia too. Picks up a lot of points at the death by wickets, and he's quite economical as well. And we've also seen with Australia, he can handle the stick as well. He can make some quick fire runs and get you a couple of extra bonus points, whether it be by strike rate bonus or by getting, his 20, 25 runs. So not that I think he'll be batting that much, but his bowling is near on the best in Australia. And I'm struggling for reasons to not have him in my side. Like, I think he's just got to be there.
Yeah, 100% on the same page. I've not to try and plug the Patreon too much, but I did an article recently on the top 10 most undervalued players, which is actually a pretty good read. I put a fair bit of time into it. But Abbott comes in at number 6 on the 6th most undervalued player in terms of starting price based on previous history of Supercoach points. So when we look at, he's currently priced at a 44, but his last 2 seasons before this, he averages 67.3 as an average. So there's 23-point bump right there if he just goes back to doing what he had done the 2 seasons before that. So there's a lot of players that have had kind of poor seasons last year that are really nicely priced. Sean Abbott's at the top of the list for me, and I think the one thing that really solidifies him and my thinking is that Tom Curran's no longer there. So Sean Abbott is going to be the guy that gets the last overs.
To put that into money perspective, Braino, a 67 average, that'd be nearly 200K, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so pretty much spot 204K this year.
Mm-hmm.
So basically there's $72,600 worth of value there in Sean Abbott starting at $131,000.
There you go.
And if Supercoach didn't go and bump his price up by $30,000 unwarranted, and he was priced at the 100K that he would have been priced at, he would have been 80% owned, I reckon. It's just, you can't pass on.
He would be the most owned. That's right.
100%. He only took 7 wickets last year, but you compare that to the 25 wickets that he took in BBL 12. I think if that tells you something, there's pedigree there. Guy's an international quality cricketer. He's going to have a better role this year than he will last year because Tom Curran's gone. Load up on Sean Abbott.
Spot on.
Who's the value, mate?
Hayden Kerr, 105K bat bowl. He's scored well in the past, and at one stage he was priced at 180,000 a couple of years ago, Braino. Last year his year was cut short with a side strain and a knee injury. He played the second last game, scored 70-odd. The last game he only scored 7. But I really like Hayden Kerr at 105K. Am I starting with him? No. But my eyes are firmly on what he's doing in the first couple of rounds for that double coming up for the Sixers.
Yeah, we only have 17 players that we can start with. You can't pick them all, but he's definitely a guy that will be on the radar in round 3. You might have to cop a price rise or 2 for him, but if he's up at around that 130, 140 mark, come their double in round 3, he's a guy you're going to be picking up, potentially even using it as a bit of a price free up or a cash grab, I guess, to make other moves as well. So, yeah, definitely underpriced there based on what he can do. So fingers crossed he can deliver, mate. But the cheapies are a bit few and far between, aren't there? Like there's a couple of options there. There's Joel Davies, who we mentioned gets around 1 gig. He's 58K bat bowl dual, which is handy, but I see him probably dropping out of the side for Hussein unless we see any injuries in the next 30 days before the season starts. But Mitch Perry, mate, you're probably higher on Mitch Perry than I am, but if he gets a gig, fantastic option.
Fantastic option. Do I see him getting a gig early? Probably not. We saw the starting lineup for the Sixers, and it's solid. It's really solid. And then you've got Hussein still to come back into that squad. Murphy, if he's not playing in the international team as well. So there's plenty of bats there, plenty of bowlers. I can't see him forcing his way in just yet. But if injuries hit, we all know they do. We've seen a couple of people go down already. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's the hard thing about picking players from really good teams is for the most part, you don't really get too many great cheapie options because they're so good and so reliable across the board. The Sixers, like we mentioned at the start, haven't had much off-season change aside from Hussein coming into this team. So, yeah, you don't see much change, which means you're going to get pretty much most of the same from what we saw last year.
I'll put it this way anyway, Bruno. You've got Dwarshuis, Abbott, Edwards, Kerr, Bird. That's just 5 I've reeled off the top of my head when we're talking fast bowling stocks. Mitch Perry be 6th in line, maybe.
Yeah, probably. And then you've also got your 2 spinners there in Davies, Scene. Yeah, tough. I mean, does that concern you at all with Jack Edwards, considering there's so many quick options? Like like you mentioned, Bird, Abbott, Kerr, like those three guys up front. I know they like to use Jack Edwards with the new ball as well. He has been bowling for New South Wales pretty consistently, so hopefully there's a role there. But does it worry you a little bit?
A little bit, yes, but it's a risk worth taking for me. This guy is Australian cricket moving forward. This time last year, Braino, we sat here and we both said Nathan McSweeney was going to make his way into the test team, in the next couple of years. Sure enough, it was probably a little bit earlier than expected for me, but he just oozes class. So Jack Edwards, I'm not saying that he's at that level yet, but he's still a young, promising cricketer, can bat, can bowl. He's good in the field as well. Give it another couple of years, and I think you'll see this guy on the international scene as well.
Jack Edwards, fun fact, last year started at 73K. And he went on that run of games. I think you quoted it the other week when we were talking about Edwards, but he went on that run of 80s and 70s. I think he didn't score under 70 or something like that in a 5 or 6 game stretch. So
that's right.
He ended up 179K. He made 100K in his first 5 games. So definitely capable of getting approaching that 200K barrier. Steve Smith, obvious fade. He won his 219K. 2, he won't be playing until round 7 for the Sixers after the international duties at test level are done. And Daniel Hughes, unfortunately, is out with, remind me of the injury again, elbow or forearm or something like that?
Yeah, it's an arm injury, but it's going to keep him out for a while.
Yeah, unfortunate, because he would have definitely opened up with his form over in England. He was quality this year. In I think Vitality Blast, he was one of the best
on fire
Supercoach scorers. So
he finished top 10.
Yeah, for sure. So we won't see him until the back end of the tournament as well, which opens the door for these other guys. So there's plenty to pick from with the Sixers. Not many cheap options, but plenty of value options and underpriced options that we think are definitely worth looking at and starting with. But that is it. That is the 8th team preview. Obviously, these will change. We're going to probably update a few of these as we get a little bit closer as well. So we've still got 30 days until the season starts, Horse. I'll tell you what, I'm starting to count down the hours.
Itchy feet. I just want it to get started, mate. We both had a look at the 7-over match between Australia and Pakistan last night, and that was wild, wasn't it? But we saw the quality. I know he doesn't play for the Sixers, and we're talking about the Sixers here, but Glenn Maxwell, my God, that was pretty to watch.
Very nice to watch. And for those of you that were thinking of fading Glenn Maxwell, you can probably just put that thought back into your back pocket and just pick him and work out how to work around it. But guys, that will do us for the Sydney Sixers. We'll be coming to you with plenty more episodes over the next 4 weeks before we kick things off. But that'll do us from here. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.